Okay, let's be real for a second. School tests can be a huge source of stress, right? For our kids, and definitely for us. But what if there was a way to change that whole experience without having to change a single thing about the school? Well, today, we're going to dive into a really simple but incredibly powerful way to transform how your child sees tests, learning, and yeah, even failure, all from the comfort of your own home.
You can think of the school system kind of like a giant ship. It turns really, really slowly, it's got its own rules, its own pace, and trying to steer it yourself can feel, well, impossible. And you know what? That's okay. Because your power isn't in changing the entire system, it's in changing how your child experiences that system.
So here it is. This is the absolute core of it all, this one simple shift. We've all been trained to ask about the score first. It's the big, flashy number. But what if we just replace that one question with another? What if we went from asking, "Did you score well?" to asking, "Did you understand?" That one little change, I promise you, can reframe the entire conversation and totally transform your child's relationship with learning.
Okay, let's jump into our first practical step. And this one is all about creating a little bit of healthy distance between a test score and your child's sense of who they are. We're going to learn how to separate their performance from their identity. So let's play out a scene. Your child walks in the door with a test. Your first instinct might be to look at the number. But instead, just pause, take a breath, and then say something like, "Hey, let's see what you understood on this." See how different that feels? It's a world away from "Why'd you get this wrong?" It immediately shows that you're on their team, ready to understand, not to judge. I love this quote because it puts everything in perspective. A grade isn't a judgment on their character. It's not a label of smart or not smart. It's just data. It's information. Think of it like a little signpost that just points to the things that might need a bit more practice. As soon as we start treating marks like information, the pressure just evaporates for everybody.
All right, so once we've brought the temperature down a bit, we can move on to the next step, which is all about changing what a wrong answer even means. This is where we build something called a retry culture right there at home.
And that brings us to step 2, building a real foundation of resilience by making your home a safe place to try and try again. It's about learning, not just being tested.
So what is a retry culture? It sounds kind of formal, but it's actually super simple. School might not give do-overs, but home absolutely can. So after you go over a test, you just casually say, "Hey, why don't we try these tricky ones again tomorrow?" That's it. No drama, no stress. It's just practice. You're giving them a second chance that the classroom often just doesn't have time for.
And this is the incredible shift that happens inside their head. When a kid gets a question right on that second attempt, their brain literally rewrites the story. The narrative in their head changes from a fixed, dead-end statement like, "I'm bad at this," to a story of growth. "Oh, I just needed one more try." Getting them to believe that, that's priceless.
Okay, so we've got the mindset sorted. Now let's talk about the specific tools you can pull out of your toolkit. These are really simple, practical things you can literally start doing tonight to build up your child's confidence and motivation. Let's dig into that toolkit with 2 really powerful strategies. We'll kick things off with step 3, which is all about focusing on micro skills. And then we'll build on that with our 4th big tool, creating something called a mastery notebook, a physical record of their wins.
So for step 3, we're going to ditch the big, scary labels like "you're weak in math." Instead, we get super specific. We get curious. Was the problem with adding fractions? Or maybe understanding the word problems? Sometimes it's just careless mistakes. When you break a huge subject into these tiny, manageable skills, it's way less scary. You can tackle one little piece at a time, and those small wins, they build serious momentum.
And now for our 4th tool, the mastery notebook. This is so simple, but wow, is it effective. Just get any old notebook and write that exact title on the cover. Every single time your child finally cracks a concept they were struggling with, they write it down. The division problem they finally get, the spelling rule that clicked, that history date they finally remembered.
See, over time, this notebook becomes this undeniable physical proof of their own progress. It's not just you telling them they can do it. It's them looking at page after page of their own handwriting, which proves a fundamental truth. I improve when I try again. This builds a kind of deep internal confidence that just hearing praise alone can never, ever touch. So we've covered the mindset, and we've got our tools. Now let's tune in to the soundtrack of all of this, the actual words you use. Because your language, day in and day out, is what shapes the emotional memory your child will have about learning for the rest of their life.
For our fifth step, let's look at some simple but powerful language swaps. So instead of creating all this pressure with a phrase like "you must get above 90", we can focus on effort by saying, "just do your best." And instead of "don't make mistakes", we can reframe mistakes as something useful. "Hey, mistakes are great. They show us what we need to practice." This kind of language just lowers the anxiety and reinforces that you two are a team.
And for our sixth step, it's all about asking better questions. We need to move away from dead-end questions like, "So, what did you get?" and start asking questions that make them think. Things like, "Which part felt confusing?" Or, "Okay, so what should we practice this week?" These kinds of questions turn your child from a passive passenger into an active driver of their own learning journey.
All right, let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. Why does any of this really matter? Because this was never just about getting through the next math test. This is about shaping a human being who loves to learn for their entire life.
And here's the most important takeaway of all. Look, you probably can't change the school's exam format, but you have 100% control over the most important part of the equation, how your child emotionally experiences their education. That, right there, is where your real power is.
And this is the part that truly lasts. I mean, think about it. 20 years from now, they are not going to remember the score they got on one single algebra test, but they will carry the emotional memory with them forever. They will remember the feeling. Did home feel like a safe harbor, a place where I could try again? Or did it feel like a courtroom, a place where I was constantly being judged? So at the end of the day, the goal of all these little strategies is to instill one simple core belief deep in your child's bones. I can try again. A kid who truly believes that won't just be resilient on a tough test, they'll be resilient in life, in friendships, in their career, in everything. So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. When all the tests are finished and school is just a distant memory, what is the one sentence, the one core idea about learning that you truly hope your child carries with them for the rest of their life?